My name is Kathleen Pianalto Miller. My date of birth is September 3rd of 1952. I was born at Washington Regional Hospital in Fayetteville.
Thank you. Now, you've already signed the permission form, but we want you to say on video that we have your permission to do the interview.
You have my permission to do this interview.
Thank you so much. Tell me, who were your parents?
My parents was Louis and Helene Pianalto. Grandpa?
Tell me first about your dad's parents.
My dad's parents was Joe and Annie Pianalto. My great-grandfather was Pietro Pianalto, and he came with Father Bandini to site out Tontitown. There was, I want to say 3 men that came with Father Bandini. There might have been 2, I can't remember how they found out. But Grandpa Pete was one of the men that came and found Tontitown with Father Bandini. He was also the town's blacksmith, first blacksmith.
Tell me about your mother's family.
Mama's family came from, or Mama came from Pennsylvania. Whenever Daddy was in the Navy, he met Mama. The way he met Mama was Uncle Jilly was in the Army, and he met Aunt Esther in Pennsylvania. That also met Aunt Mary's husband in Pennsylvania, which is all in family. Aunt Mary, Uncle Jilly, and Daddy all were in the service and met their mates in Pennsylvania. Mama moved here whenever she was 18 years old after she married Daddy.
Okay. Tell me about your dad's siblings. Didn't he come from a big family? Who were they and what did they do?
Daddy came from, there were 7 in the family, 4 boys, 3 girls. It went Aunt Mary, Aunt Matilda, Aunt Josephine. Then it was Uncle Jilly, Uncle Pete, Daddy, which was Louis Pianalto, and then Uncle Philip was the baby.
Okay. Tell me about your family when you were growing up. Who were your siblings, your brothers and sisters?
My siblings was Michael, Robert, Sammy were the boys, and then I was the only girl. Now, Mother had a little boy that was born with spinal bifida, and he only lived for 2 weeks. We buried him on the day before Christmas.
Okay. Tell me, what was your family's business?
We didn't have a business per se. Daddy laid tile, and he went to work for Jones Truck Lines in the 60s, driving a truck. He had a local every day. He went to Siloam Springs and then back, so he was home every night. Mother stayed home, and she took care of 40,000 chickens and the cows, the household, did the canning, whatever, took care of the kids. We all worked with her, alongside her. That's whenever we didn't have automatic feeders. So Mother would get on one side, and we had 40 of the, they called them hog feeders at the time. Mother would get on one side, I'd get on the other side, and we'd load up our wheelbarrow, and we'd lift that wheelbarrow and drag it along. She did her 40, and I did my 40. And that's how we fed our chickens. Everything was hand watered, not like it is today.
How would you water the chickens? What was the routine? What would you have to do?
We just carried buckets of water to each one of the containers.
Did you have a well? Or
Well, there was yeah, we had a well, and it was piped into the chicken house. And you turn the water faucet on, basically, and fill it up, and then water each one of the containers that we had.
What else? You talked about your part in the family farming business was helping with the chickens. What else would you do around the farm and the house?
Well, we did everything. We helped with cows. We hauled hay. Nobody was, The only thing Daddy didn't let me help with, I guess I should say, was he would train horses for a guy, Willard Moon, in town. He had a racehorse, and Dad would train him. The boys did that. He was kind of strict. Daddy was very strict. Matter of fact, he's probably known as one of the strictest ones here in Tontitown. Whenever the boys hauled hay, they cleaned chicken houses for other people, they hauled hay for other people. I went to work whenever I was 13 at Tontitown Cafe. Now, we were never allowed to buy a car, but he always had a vehicle for us to get back and forth to our jobs. I had a 49 Plymouth, and I would drive the back roads to Alma's Cafe, which is kind of where Pam's Trucking is right now. And that was in the 7th grade, I think. No, the 8th grade, excuse me. I did the 7th and 8th summers. In the 9th grade, I went to work for Mary Maestri at the restaurant. And that's whenever Eddie managed it. I mean, he was a great boss. Mary Maestri would always sit in her little room, and she'd watch me go up and down those stairs with the food.
Tell me more about working for Mary Maestris. What was that like?
I loved working for Mary Maestris. I love people. I mean, it was just, I liked talking, and yet I was very shy in school, but for some reason, I liked to wait on the customers. Whenever I left Mary Maestris, I worked all the way through to the 12th grade at Mary Maestris, and then I finally got my job at the First National Bank. And I worked for First National Bank in Springdale for 13 years. I had both of my boys, and Jones Truck Lines asked me to come work for them, more money, thinking that I would enjoy it. But they put me back to where I didn't see anybody. I was in a tiny little office, and I needed the people to talk to. I enjoy talking to the people. So I quit. I went to work as a flower designer for Country Gardens for a couple of years, and then I opened up my own business at the Tontitown Flea Market, and I've been there, it'll be 30 years in October.
Tell me about your business in Tontitown. What do you do, and who are your customers?
Oh my Lord, my customers are from every place. I used to have a guest book, and I'd look at it, and they'd be from Germany and Ireland and Alaska. They're all over the United States. And what I do is, my building is about 12,000, 13,000 square feet, and I rent the spaces, plus I collect a 10% commission. So it's none of my merchandise. I don't have to go out and shop. I don't have to do anything. All I have to do is collect the money. I pay the vendor on the first day of the month, and they stock their own booth. They find the stuff. And I have some vendors that's been with me 30 years.
So you sell for the...
I sell for the vendor. It's not my merchandise.
So they put the stuff in the booth?
They rent a 6x8 booth for $65. So I collect their $65 plus whatever sales they make. I collect the 10% off of that. I take it out of their check, and then they pick up their check on the first of the month.
Tell me what you like about that. I mean, what's fun about your job there?
Fun about my job is I'm working for myself. Next thing is I meet the customer. I enjoy my customers. I enjoy the people.
Go back to Mary Maestris when you were a young girl working at Mary Maestris. What was the atmosphere like? I mean,
oh my Lord, we'd laugh all the time. We had Lois Artemani, Rosie Finn, Frances Franco, all these older waitresses, and they could tell some of the best jokes in between customers. But we had a good time. I was skinny back then too, because I had to go up and down the stairs for my taking the food up and down. We had a dumbwaiter, but very few things was upstairs, and I did the upstairs. I didn't do the downstairs. Mary Maestro would always sit there, and she had a chair right at the bottom of those steps where her little room was that she stayed in. And she'd see you go up and down the stairs, and she'd see the customers go up and down the stairs. And she'd greet them, say hi to them, or she'd be sitting there with her rosary in her lap, saying her rosary. So she was a neat lady.
Talk about, let's back up again and Alma's. Talk about, where did Alma's get its name and what was the restaurant like? Alma's,
and my brothers and I have argued with this a couple days ago. Alma eventually started right next to Barrington and 412 on the corner. It was right next, it was a 2-story cafe right next to Perona's feed mill. Well, they had a fire there. Whenever Alma, the building burnt down, Alma had to move down the street. I can't remember if she bought the Quarter Horse Saloon or the Red Door, one or the other. I said it was a Red Door, somebody else said it was a Quarter Horse. Alma's still alive, so you can find out from her. And I went to work there in the summer times. It was just a hometown cafe. Her name was Alma Hartman. She married George. Her maiden name was Siganero. And my grandmother's maiden name was Siganero.
Tell me about the menu. What are the items on the menu and who are your customers?
I don't remember my customers that much. I really don't. The items on the menu, though, I still remember she made the neatest hot roast beef sandwich. And to this day, I make that same style hot roast beef sandwich. And the bread was always sticking straight up and 2 slices on the bottom with the gravy and the mashed potatoes on the side. It was a neat hot roast beef sandwich. And it was pretty.
What are your earliest memories of Tontitown?
My early memories, I can't tell you. I don't remember all that much about it. I know we worked all the time. I asked Mother about this here a while back too, and my mama's got dementia right now, but she'll come up with stuff every once in a while. But she said the same thing. She said, you all worked all the time. We never went out and ate. We always had our meals. Daddy was very particular. He wanted meat, a potato, 2 vegetables, and a salad and bread. He wanted a big meal in the evening whenever he got off work. Never went out to eat. I don't recall going out anytime.
What about shopping and trading? Would you ever go into town to buy things in Tontitown? If you did,
in Tontitown we went in. I remember after school there was a Claude Mersoni's store, and it is where another place right there where Pam Trucking is now. And Claude Mersoni had the best orange push-up ice creams. Now, Mama said she would always get her meat there because Claude would cut it and slice it for her. The other staples, she'd get a few staples there, but the other staples, she would go to the Tontitown Mercantile, which was Richard Artemani's store. And it's on the corner of Barrington and 412. Very seldom went into town, into Springdale, though.
Tell me, where did you live when you were a young kid in Tontitown, and then where else have you lived after that?
Whenever I was 2 years old, I lived on the George's farm. Mother would help. Well, I'm not real sure how it was, back then. I think it's 48th Street now. It's just one street over from the Pilot or like Sam's store. Anyway, the house is still in that area. Mom and Dad rented a house there. I was 2 years old. And then they moved to my grandfather. Grandpa Joe helped them build or buy the home place here that we live on now. We had a 2-story house. And we had that house until Daddy fell through the floor one day because it was rotten. And then we built a little house that is still there right now. And my second brother lives in it. And then I got married in '75. Jim and I moved to Springdale. We was there for 18, 19 years. And we had this land Daddy gave us whenever he died. He gave each one of the kids 10 acres.
When you say this land, where is it located? Tell me about the land.
The land is on Harmon Road. He had 40 acres, and each one of the kids got 10 acres.
So even now today, who are your neighbors now?
My neighbors are my family, my siblings. My child, my oldest boy, Mark, his wife, and my 2 grandkids live just south of me. And then my mother lives on the place in a little old house. Robert, Sandy, which is my second brother, lives in the home place. And then my oldest brother and his wife live on their acreage right next to them.
Okay. Tell me what it was like going to school. And where did you go to school and what was it like?
Went to school from the 1st to the 8th grade in Tontitown. We were taught by the nuns. I want to say there was 3 rooms at the time. Sister Winifred, Sister Adrienne, and I can't remember the other one. There was 3 nuns. Each one of them had a classroom. And at the 8th grade, I think there was 14 of us that graduated from Tontitown. We went straight from the 8th grade into Springdale High School.
About what year did you graduate and who were some of your classmates?
In Tontitown, who's my classmates? Oh, Tommy Barriola, Sharon Pianalto, Joyce Pianalto, Brenda Pianalto, Ronnie and Donnie Pianalto. There was a lot of Pianaltos. David Bursey, Glenda Stockton, Larry J-Rowe. Can't remember the rest. Anyway, it was a big transaction from a tiny little school going straight into Springdale High School. That's whenever the grades went from 9th through the 12th.
So what was it like being the young little country kid from Tontitown coming in there to the big Springdale school?
It was horrifying for me to go to Springdale. I hated every bit of it. I wasn't fond of school anyway, but to go, at that time, you had to go from one side of the street all the way over to the other side of the street, like to home ec, or even, I want to say I had a science classroom over there, but it was just getting in between one class and the other. It didn't seem like he was ever going to have enough time. It was very scary. For me, it was, anyway.
Tell about some of the people you remember growing up meeting in Tontitown, besides just family. I mean, who are some of the elders or the people in the community that stand out that you remember?
Alma Hartman, of course, she had Alma's Cafe. Then we had, as far as our elders, we had Richard Artemani, Bobby Pianalto and Richard Pianalto and Felix Posa took over the old mercantile whenever Richard Artemani, I guess he leased it to him or sold it to him or something, I'm not sure. We had the Pianalto Garage, which was Francis, Lawrence, and Gabriel Pianalto. They were all three brothers that had the Pianalto Garage, and we always took the vehicles there. I remember Daddy did. Of course, the Mersani store, where the push-up ice creams were. M&M Tile was there at that time. They were the tile and marble company, and a lot of people worked for the Messinos. Trying to think. Uncle Philip had a barbershop at the time, and Uncle Philip was on one side of the barbershop, and he gave the men's haircuts, and Rachel Franco was on the other side, and she gave the women's haircuts. And it's where the little monument place is right now. That building is still there. Then you had the Venetian Inn, which was, at that time, Alice Leatherman. Paul and Alice Leatherman ran it. And then, of course, you had Mary Maestry's, ran by Eddie Maestry, her son. So.
Where did your family attend church, and how big a part of the...
Daddy was very big in the church. We attended always St. Joseph's Catholic Church there in Tontitown. We was there every time the door was open. We was at church. And we had all of our weddings there, our funerals there. And now it's torn down, which is a very sore subject for me.
When you were a young girl growing up in Tontitown, what would you and your friends do for fun?
What little bit of fun we had, as Mother said, we always worked, but we went to the swimming holes. We had Cherry Hole and Blue Hole. And the way I learned how to swim was Daddy threw me off the side of the bank at Cherry Hole. I don't remember a lot, but I remember I had bobby pins in my hair that day, and all I could do was try to grab those bobby pins as I was coming up for air. I got up and Daddy was just laughing at me. He thought that was so funny. I was trying to get those bobby pins because I knew if I lost my bobby pins, I wouldn't get any more. That's horrible. Probably need to edit that one out.
So where were the, you say Cherry Hole and Blue Hole?
Cherry Hole. Okay, Blue Hole is just down, and the kids still go to Blue Hole. And it's down on Wildcat Creek. And matter of fact, I drove my grandkids down there last year on the four-wheelers. And you just kind of drive across it. It was not as big a hole as it used to be. As far as Cherry Hole, it's over on the corner of Brush Creek Road and Javello, which is Montagani Winery. The old Montagani Winery is on Javello Road. So it's kind of a landmark there. So.
What about your parents and their friends and adults? When you were a kid, what would the older people do for fun?
The older people had their dances. They loved to go to the Knights of Columbus and have dances. And my daddy loved to dance. Mama said they would go and dance, and Daddy would dance with everybody but Mama. She said, Mama didn't like to dance that much, but he loved to. Daddy was a Grand Knight, which was one of the elders of the Knights of Columbus. So they went to like different events out of town, Hot Springs, Fort Smith, different places, Little Rock. They played pitch, a card game. Of course, Mother said they used to play mortar, which is the knife game. You know, how you throw the knife and see how it sticks. I don't know how. And they played bocce. And that was a Sunday afternoon. Back then, they played bocce at High Cholas. They call him High Pockets because he was a tall man and his pockets were always high. So they call him High Pockets. That was his nickname. And it was on an old country road, but he had a really neat old bocce court over there. That was before they built one at the park in Tontitown.
So tell me about Hyde Pockets and the place he had. What was it like, and who would go, and what would they do?
High Pockets, from my understanding, and I've been over there, and he still has a bocce court over there. I think the guy, Paul Chola, has the court. But basically, only the men would go over there because they would drink their wine and play the bocce. And that was it. I guess they got away from the wife, as they say.
Did the women, were they allowed to come? Or?
They were probably allowed to come, but they never did. So it was just something that the guys went over and played their bocce and drank their wine. So it was their Sunday afternoon or their Saturday afternoon getaway, basically. So
what would the women do when the men were off playing bocce?
They was probably home working. I'm sure that's what the women was doing. Pulling cows, feeding chickens.
Well, kind of backing up, you grew up with a lot of brothers, and I kind of got the feeling that maybe you worked right alongside the boys and pulled a full workload. Is that?
We always did.
Tell me about that.
Like Mama said, if whatever needed to be done, we did it. The boys had their thing. They would do most of the hay and a lot of the cow work. But if baby calves had to be fed, we all fed them. We all did our share. I drove the tractor. I hauled the hay. So it didn't matter what your status was. You did it, the work. I know one time, and I don't remember when we got TV, but Daddy came home and wanted to know if the boys, he said, have the kids got all the chores done? And Mother did all the chores that day because there was a cartoon on that we watched. And she wanted us to watch that cartoon because we didn't ever get to. And it's probably a stupid cartoon, but whatever. And she said, yep, I had them do all the chores. They're all done. And we just looked at Mama, and because we knew we didn't do any of the chores, that she had done them all for us.
So tell me about that. Why would she do that? In your own words, what did she do and why would she do it?
She wanted us to have a little time.
Tell me more about your mom. What was she like? That tells me a lot about her. What was she like?
Mother was very quiet. Daddy was definitely the man of the house. But Mother was quiet. She worked. But I get tickled at her, my sister-in-law and I, no, my sister-in-law, Sandy. We've noticed since she's had dementia now that she's a little spunky. And like we'll tell her, say, Mom, you need to go in there and take a shower. Nope, don't want to. I ain't gonna do it. And she'll leave and Sandy will say, she thinks I'm gonna take a shower. And we just get so tickled at her because she would never, ever back talk anybody, ever. I mean, she went along with everything. And she would work like nobody knew how to work.
What do you remember about the Tontitown Grape Festival? When was the first time you went, and what was it like going when you were a kid?
We went to the festival almost every night, that I remember. I don't remember a whole lot. I know that we all had our chores. The girls, the young girls would always wait tables. And the guys would always work either in the bingo or the hamburger tent. At that time, it was a tent with sawdust floors. I know Daddy worked the tent, and he cooked the hamburgers. And basically, the guys had the outside things, the women had the inside chores. We made all the spaghetti. That's whenever we made the spaghetti sauce in like they were probably like 15 to 20 gallon pots. So you had several pots all over the kitchen. It wasn't one container like they do nowadays. Now they have a container that makes 85 gallons. So.
How big a deal was that? What kind of a social event was it to get together and to work and to put it on?
We just knew that we was expected to work at the Grape Festival because all of that money was to pay the bills at our church. At that time, you didn't tie to a church. You put whatever money you could in the basket. That money paid all the bills from the Grape Festival through the whole year. And whatever was left, of course, the Diocese of Little Rock, which is, it basically controls the money situation too, in a sense. It gets the rest, which it still does nowadays a lot.
Were you ever involved in any other events, the Queen pageant or?
I ran for Grape Festival Queen. I can't remember what year it was. I know that that's whenever they still pulled the Queen out of the hat. They put the 3 names in of the girls, and somebody would pull their name out of the hat. And I was working at Mary Maestry's that night. And I told them I couldn't get off. And they said, well, we're drawing for the Queen tonight. But I was not there whenever they drew for the Queen. And but I ran for Queen. And I think that was the year Shirley Pianalto got it, which was a cousin of mine. No, she was Shirley Sabatini at the time, excuse me. And as far as, you know, Easter had your holy days headed up to Easter. That was an event that Christmas, now Daddy always had breakfast after midnight mass. And he always had a lot of people at the house. Mother would cook. And we always had homemade salami. We had homemade salami, which we butchered in the fall. And we had eggs, potatoes, gravy, you know, the biscuits and whole 9 yards, and wine. And we'd have a whole house full. And it usually went on, midnight mass was at 12. We got out at about 1 o'clock. So Mother would have breakfast at 1:30, 1:45. Every midnight mass that way I can remember.
But you mentioned some of the other traditions besides the Grape Festival and some of the holidays and masses. What are some other things that went on in Tontitown that you remember? I mean, like Halloween. What were some of the traditions for Halloween that you remember?
I don't remember hardly any. Well, I take that back. We used to have a Halloween party in the old school's basement where they made the pasta, where they made the pasta at the time. And everybody would dress up. And one year, I wanted to be a horse. I don't know why, but I wanted to be a horse. And I was trying to make the costume, and I couldn't get my costume made. But that's really the only Halloween I remember.
What are some of the things you remember, the phases and steps in the growth of Tontitown from this little bitty country town with 2 roads that was 68 to now this much different town with 412? And I mean, what are some of the big changes you remember over the years coming down with Tontitown?
Changes wise, you know, in the 60s, I was in school, and you know, you remember all of the first businesses that we had. The 70s, I graduated from high school. Got married in 75. It just, I don't remember a whole lot. The 60s, my brother it was a Vietnam era. My brother went to Vietnam. We were all consumed in that. He came home completely different person with 2 Purple Hearts and a Silver Star. But life changed a lot in that era to me, which it has for everybody in that era. Like I said, Jim and I got married in '75, and the growth of Tontitown has just boomed over those years. You have so many more businesses that, you know, people, they'll stop by my store and they'll say, where is this one at? There's so many now, I don't even know where they all are anymore. So many new ones, including houses. I mean, if somebody sells a piece of farmland, there's going to be a subdivision built fast in it. So I just don't remember a whole lot about some of that because we were busy working, doing other things.
Sure. What are some other stories about Tontitown maybe that I haven't thought to ask about, or some interesting things you might want to tell?
I guess the most traumatic thing for me is that whenever they tore down the nun's house first, then my husband and I went in and remodeled Father Corinthi's house whenever Father Corinthi was here. I told him they was letting it run down, and I went in one day and I said, let me do just 2 rooms. Let me just paint them. He said, oh, he said, I've lived in a garage. He said, I don't need that. I said, let me just do it. So Jim and I went in, and my boys, they helped. Mama helped. There was a couple other ones. And we started tearing out carpet, and there was wood floors underneath. And I ended up doing 11 rooms in that house. And it wasn't nothing but touch-up or paint or cleaning. But I repainted everything. We pulled out carpets. We cleaned up the floors. We sanded them. We did whatever we could. That was major for me. Then whenever they tore it down, I just hated it. Then we wanted to get a grant. The museum tried to get a grant to fix up the old church, and that didn't happen. So Jim and I sat and watched that old church come down, and that was major for me. It just, and I have a Facebook page, and every time somebody posts something, I just have to voice my 5 opinions.
Well,
or
tell
more.
me more about the history of that decision. I mean, when was the church built, and then when did they ultimately decide and why to tear it down?
I can't remember when it was built. It was in the, I mean, off the top of my head, I can't remember the year. They decided to tear it down because they said it was too far gone. Well, in my opinion, they should have never let it get too far gone. They said the same thing about Father Corinthi's house. They said it was too far gone. Well, there's too many people around here getting grants that can fix things up. We sat there and we watched that track hoe try to tear that church down off its foundation, and it was tipping the biggest track hoe over on its side almost, trying to get the foundation up. I think they could have repaired the roof. It was wood. I think they could have repaired the floor. It was wood. Take it out and start again. The concrete was all there. It's just a sad to me. But it's gone. Nothing you do about it now.
What do you see as other important restoration projects in Tontitown now?
I think they've done an extremely good job with the City Hall. They've added the immigrant pictures. They've taken all of the names and put them on the wine stays. And that is beautiful. I think that that's a start. But you can't ever bring back those old buildings. They're gone.
If somebody who'd never been to Tontitown, didn't know anything about Tontitown, met you and said, tell me about your little hometown of Tontitown. What kind of a place is it, and why would I like it? What would you tell them?
When people come into my store and I start talking about Tontitown, it's an Italian settlement. My great-grandfather was the first blacksmith. My brother is basically a metal, he hammers metal for a living. So he's considered a blacksmith. He does a lot of metal repairs. I sit and I talk to those people about the different things that Tontitown has gone through, and you can see in their eyes that they're almost, you've captured them. They're captivated with the story, and they don't walk away. They don't want to say, oh, I got to go. They want more. It's a captivating story.
Tell me more.
I just think that it's a shame that we've lost some of our history. And you're losing that history whenever you're putting up metal buildings instead of saving the ones you got. I'm sorry. But anyway, somebody that doesn't know anything about Tontitown, like I said, and that's what the question you was asked, they enjoy listening to the story. And I keep a lot of the old Great Festival books from the years past, and I go into my office and I give them, I said, here's the story. I said, sit down whenever you got time and read it. I said, you'll like it. And they always take it. They always enjoy it. So, yeah.
One last thing. If someone came to you and said, to finish this sentence, how would you do it? My favorite thing about Tontitown is?
My family. My daddy left me 10 acres. He left each one of my siblings 10 acres. And I'm on his land that he gave me. That's my best thing about Tontitown, because I'm home.
Would you ever sell it?
Never. I'll be dead whenever it's gone. Now, I have a child that will probably not mow as much as I do. My oldest one mows all the time. My youngest one, not so much. He said, Mom, if anything happens to you, he said, I'm not mowing all this. And I said, well, somebody's going to have to. But I get tickled, and I'll mow all my fence rows. I weed eat all my fence rows. And every once in a while, I'll get tired, and I thought, I don't want to mow this fence row today. And I'll look up, and I thought, okay, Daddy, I'm going to mow the fence row. I'm doing it. It's like he's telling me, mow that fence row. So, yeah, I'll never sell it. It's my home place.